Greetings from Derbyshire. I'm often asked how I decide where to go. So today's video is about how I plan a route. So the first thing I consider is how far I want to go, what's the weather like, what might the conditions be like down on the ground, what the route choices are there any escape routes if I need to change the plan, and how I record the route at home and then upload it onto my GPS. I'm going to think about is how far do I want to go. Obviously that would depend on the terrain. Roughly I'll probably do round about 6 miles per hour, but it's not an exact science, so I might need to actually plot in a bit of a halfway point to see how it's going, because obviously the type of surface is going to dictate the speed I go, the elevation, and to a certain extent the weather.
But it is beautiful and I can't encourage you enough to get up here. It's wonderful and the road's picking up. I need to get down the other bit.
Second thing I like to think about is what's the weather going to be like when I do this ride. I quite like to use the Mountain Weather Information Service, and there's a link below in the video description. They provide a regional weather forecast and it's free. So you'll be able to think about things like, will it be windy? Will the rain that's in the forecast in the valley fall asleep, maybe up on the hills? And that might need to be taken into consideration in your plan. Next thing I'm going to think about is what are my route choices? Is there a selection of byways, bridleways and maybe small roads that I'm going to use? How am I going to use them? I personally quite like to highlight the possibilities of bridleways and byways on my map, and then I try and link those together and create a loop. And I tend to use a mixture of things. This time of the year, when it's very wet, I try to do things like maybe do some of the ups on a road rather than a bridleway, for example, which might be really tough and boggy. When I'm deciding whether I'm going to go up a slope or down it, I do look at the contours, and remember, the closer the contours are together, the steeper the slope, and you need to look at the numbers on the contours to give you a clue whether you're going up or down. I always think about where could I cut a ride short if I need to, because sometimes a ride takes longer than you think, or maybe it's turned into a bog fest that you never expected and everything takes twice as long. Have a look at the map. Where could you cut it short if you need to? One of the things I always do, I always have the map in my back pocket should I need to get back to the finish as quick as possible. So this is me at the planning stage, and this is actually the highlighted route for Longstone and Eam loops that I did recently. You can see I've actually joined all the bits up already, but what I started off doing is actually looking at where the off-road options are, and I wanted it essentially to be a gravel ride, so my priority really was gravel roads. Also it's going into winter and I sold it really as a winter route, so those had to be my priority because I knew they would hold out in really wet weather. So it started down at Great Longstone, and you can see here the easiest route up onto this Longstone edge was up this road. Then we've got a really small road that actually contours across what's actually quite a steep slope. So that's perfect for going up a very steep hill. Then I moved over to a gravel road over here, which again I knew that would be good because gravel roads have a hardcore base, so it wouldn't be too bad in the wet. Then there was actually found this bridleway here I highlighted. Now, I have said sometimes it's easier to go down bridleways in wet conditions, but as this one contours across the slope, probably get away with that. And then I moved out here to this gravel road, which took me down to Calver. Into Calver, and then found a perfect byway, which again contours across the slope and goes up through a bit of a valley, so I knew that would be perfect even if it was wet. And once I got into Eyam, I had a bit of a choice then really, because I wanted to get up to this fantastic gravel road up here that looks perfect, and then also set me up perfectly to use this byway here. If you've enjoyed this video, give it the big thumbs up, share it with your friends and consider subscribing. So I've now recorded the route on the paper map. What I'm going to do now is transfer it over to Strava so that later I can export it onto my GPS. I've chosen Strava having looked at a variety of mapping applications, and this is just one that I like. So click onto my Strava and I go up to dashboard and I go to my routes, and from there I click onto new route, and I'm actually going to plan a route that starts from Calver. So I scroll the map down till I find my starting point, Calver. And I'm actually going to make it slightly bigger because that makes things much easier. Right, there we go. Right, I'll just make it slightly bigger so it's easy for you to see. Right, so I click on Calver as the start of the route. And if you actually look at the map now, it's a great mishmash of blue lines. These blue lines are public rights of way, but the problem is at this stage you can't really see easily which ones are bridleways, byways, and some of the roads get difficult to see as well. So what I do is I have the paper map to hand, and I'm actually looking at the shapes of the route to help me mark it on here. Right, so I've started off here on this road, and I know it's a road because it's a solid red line. And then I'm going to go up this byway, which is here. So what I've done is there's the junction, and I'm just clicking after the junction on the new part of the track. Up it goes, and as you can see it's a broken red line now, and that tells me that it's an off-road bit if I didn't know. Up we go. Now come to a junction here. I actually want to be on this road here that goes through Eyam, so I'm going to click here beyond the junction, and on we go. Remembering the rule, click beyond the junction, and that helps that join up. You can see now solid red line, so I know it's a road. I'm going to go up here, continue up Edge Road, and then I'm going to get on this brilliant byway that's up here. So I've clicked beyond the junction. Off we go, and then what I'm going to do then, there's a beautiful byway up here and I want to get onto that, so I'll click beyond the junction on the start of that, scroll the map over up to here, and then I'm going to come down here and I actually want to get on this bit of road here, and then I want to go here. Now for some mysterious reason at this point it always decides to do its own thing, which is wrong, so I'm going to undo that. I'm then going to use the manual mode for actually marking the route on at this stage, because that helps me override what the program's doing on its own. Now when I use manual mode I actually need to do my clicks slightly close together, so I'm going to carry on here and then to here, down to here. When it comes up here as a white line with red down the side, it actually means it's, oops, I'll just let me undo that bit. It means it's an unspecified right of way, but I know from the map that it's actually a byway. What I'm going to do now, because I've got over that tricky bit where I know always goes wrong and I have to switch over to manual mode, I'm actually going to switch it back onto automatic, and it probably will work a bit smoother. Perfect. Can you see there it's actually gone right round the corner. Then I'm going to carry on here down to Okay, and I'm actually clicking between the points that I put on when I started the route, because I'm now reversing this part. And then I'm going to stop at Calver. Now I save to my route, and then I'm going to export it as a GPX file to put on my GPS. Whilst this hasn't been the most exciting video, I really hope it's been a useful one. So get drawing on those maps, have fun, see you soon, thanks for watching.